The last human ambassador. The Hall of Infinite Stars had never witnessed such silence. Cal Varen's polished boots clicked against the iridium floor as he approached the central dais, the 7 thrones of the Galactic Council looming above him like monoliths. His reflection in the mirrored surfaces showed a human face set with quiet determination, the silver trim of his ambassadorial coat catching the starlight from the chamber's holographic ceiling. "Counselors," Cal began, his voice amplified by the chamber's acoustics, "I bring final terms from Earth's collective." A ripple passed through the assembled alien delegates, the insectoid Xanthus clicking mandibles in disapproval, the amphibious Rillians bubbling in their liquid pods. High Prelate Vixis of the Draxan Dominion rose, her crystalline body refracting light across the chamber. "Your terms are irrelevant, human. The Edict of Conformity permits no exceptions." Her voice carried the weight of 10,000 years of galactic dominance. "Your species will adopt standardized technology, abandon your chaotic governance systems, and submit to council oversight within the allotted period." Hale activated the holodisplay on his wrist. "With respect, Prelate, these projections show human innovation has outpaced council-approved tech in 17 critical fields." The display showed shimmering graphs. "Our quantum slip space research alone could revolutionize." Enough. The thunderous interruption came from Warlord Gruck of the Korath hegemony, his massive frame straining against his restraint field. "Primitives playing with toys they don't understand. Your kind nearly destroyed yourselves 3 times before we intervened." A murmur of agreement spread through the observer galleries where representatives from 100 species sat. Cal spotted Ambassador Thelis of the Veldari, her luminous eyes watching him with unusual intensity, the only friendly face in the chamber. Cal took a steadying breath. "Then I must deliver Earth's final decision." He tapped his wrist display, transmitting the document to every screen in the galaxy simultaneously. "Humanity respectfully declines assimilation." The uproar shook the very foundations of the hall. Vixis's crystalline form pulsed with dangerous energy. "You would choose isolation. Your economy depends on our trade networks. Your defenses rely on our protection." Cal allowed himself a small smile. "Does it?" He tapped another command. Across the galaxy, automated systems in human sectors disengaged from galactic networks with eerie synchronization. "We've been preparing for this moment since first contact." As alarms began blaring through the council complex, Cal turned to leave. Thelis appeared suddenly at his side, her whisper barely audible over the chaos. "They don't understand what you've done, but I do." The relays. Cal gave an almost imperceptible nod. Phyllis's bioluminescent markings flashed in a pattern humans would recognize as a salute. "Then may the void guide you, Cal Varen." Outside the hall, Cal's aide commander Lyra Drake fell into step beside him, her military bearing contrasting with his diplomatic calm. "Phase 1 complete," she murmured. "The Ghost Fleet is awakening." Cal glanced at the starfield above them, where invisible to most sensors, human ships were already moving. "They'll realize too late," he said softly. "The galaxy runs on human ingenuity. Let's see how long their perfect civilization lasts without it." On their shuttle approaching Earth's lunar orbit, Cal watched the blue planet grow larger. Tiny pinpricks of light sparkled across its surface, cities beginning their transformation. Lyra handed him a secure compad. "Admiral Vance reports the Arctic shipyards are fully operational. The Mars colonies have begun boarding." Cal scrolled through the status reports. 7 billion humans to evacuate, an entire civilization to relocate. The greatest disappearing act in galactic history. His communicator chimed with an emergency alert. The Council had just ordered all human assets frozen. "Too slow," Lara smirked as she initiated the countermeasures. Across known space, human accounts dissolved, AIs self-deleted, and hidden protocols activated. The galaxy would wake tomorrow to find its most underestimated species gone. As Earth filled their viewport, Cal allowed himself one last look at the cradle of humanity. Not an ending, he thought. A beginning. Somewhere in the dark between galaxies, new lights were being kindled. The Ghost Fleet rises. The first signs came from the ocean. Deep beneath the Pacific, where the crushing darkness had hidden them for decades, massive structures shuddered to life. The sea boiled as kilometer-long vessels breached the surface, water cascading from their matte black hulls. Satellite feeds across Earth flickered as automated systems erased all evidence, but not before a few grainy images leaked. Humanity's secret fleet, rising like ghosts from the deep. On the lunar far side, the same phenomenon unfolded. Craters yawned open, revealing shipyards buried beneath regolith. Sleek, angular vessels emerged, their engines flaring with an unfamiliar blue glow. Human-designed thrusters, not reliant on Council-approved propulsion. And then the asteroid belt moved. What the galaxy had believed to be random debris shifted, aligning in precise formations. Rocks split apart, shedding disguises to reveal warships, colony arcs, and something the Council had never seen before, massive ringed structures humming with unstable energy. High Prelate Vixis watched the reports flood in from across the solar system, her crystalline form flickering with disbelief. "This is impossible," she hissed. Their industrial capacity was monitored. They couldn't have built this. Her aide, a young Draxan named Zix, trembled as new data scrolled across their screens. "Prelate, they didn't just build ships. They built better ones." A hologram flickered between them, a human vessel, its design unlike anything in the Galactic Registry. No bulky fusion reactors, no standard navigation arrays. Instead, a sleek, almost organic shape, pulsing with something that made Vixis's neural clusters ache to look at. "Quantum slip drive," Zix whispered. "They cracked it. The Council banned research into." "I know what we banned." Vixis snapped. On the screen, Earth's cities were vanishing. Not destroyed. Not abandoned. Disassembled. Buildings folded in on themselves, collapsing into transport modules that ascended toward the waiting fleet. Farmlands dissolved into nutrient-rich slurry, siphoned into storage. Even the atmosphere was being carefully harvested, filtered, and stored. Humanity wasn't fleeing. They were packing. Commander Lyra Drake stood on the bridge of the Odyssey, the flagship of the Ghost Fleet. Around her, officers worked in calm efficiency, preparing for the final phase. "Evacuation at 87%, reported Lieutenant Chen. "Remaining population consists of volunteers and those who chose to stay." Lyra's jaw tightened. Not everyone believed in the exodus. Some thought the Council would relent. Others refused to leave Earth, no matter the cost. "Prep the farewell message," she ordered. A technician nodded, routing the broadcast through every remaining human comms network. It would be short, simple, and utterly devastating. Ambassador Thelis watched from her private observatory as the human fleet assembled in high orbit. Her Veldari senses tingled with the energy radiating from those ships. Something wrong, something that defied known physics. Her communicator chimed, a priority alert from the Council. "Thelis, emergency session. Now." She didn't move. Instead, she opened a secure channel, one she'd kept hidden even from her own people. The frequency was human. "Kale," she whispered, "what have you done?" Static. Then, "What we had to." The line went dead. On the Council station, panic was setting in. "All human assets have gone dark," a Xanthus officer reported. "Their financial networks, erased. Their AIs, gone. Even their art. Every digital file wiped." Warlord Gruck snarled. "They think they can run. Track their trajectory. We'll drag them back." A Korath technician hesitated. "Warlord, we can't." "What do you mean, can't?" The technician pulled up a star map. Human ships weren't moving toward any known colony. They weren't even following standard slip-space routes. They were aligning in a perfect sphere around Earth. And activating something. Cal Varen stood at the observation deck of the Odyssey, watching his homeworld one last time. "Ready?" Lyra asked beside him. He nodded. A technician's voice echoed across the fleet-wide comms. Full drive engaged. Space itself rippled. The Council's sensors screamed as the fabric of reality twisted around Earth's orbit. For a single, terrifying second, the entire human fleet and the planet they orbited shimmered like a mirage. And then, in the blink of an eye, they were gone. On the Council station, silence. High Prelate Vixis stared at the empty star map, her crystalline form dull with shock. It wasn't just the ships. It wasn't just the people. Earth itself had vanished. No debris. No warp signature. Just nothing. Then the alarm started blaring, not from the sensors, but from the station's own systems. Life support, gravity control, communications, all failing at once. Zix looked up in horror. Prelate, the station's core stabilizer. Vixis understood instantly. The stabilizer was human-made. And now it was shutting down. The Council's mistake. The first systems failed within hours. On the edge of Council space, the Tarkus relay, a massive FTL communications hub, sputtered and died. Across 100 worlds, news feeds dissolved into static. The Tarkus had been built by humans, maintained by humans, and now, without them, its alien operators could do nothing but watch as the lights went out. Then the life support grids on 7 major orbital stations began fluctuating. High Prelate Vixis stood in the crumbling command center of the Council station, her crystalline form flickering like a dying star. Around her, Draxan engineers scrambled to stabilize the failing systems. "Report," she demanded. A technician trembled. "The atmospheric regulators, human-designed. The backup protocols are missing." Vixis turned to the observation window. Outside, the station's outer sectors were already dark. Ambassador Thelis moved through the chaos unseen. While the Council panicked, she accessed restricted archives, pulling files the galaxy had ignored for decades. Maintenance logs, infrastructure schematics, even simple things, water purifiers, medical scanners, agricultural drones. All of them bore the same hidden signature, Human Engineering Division. Her hand shook as she cross-referenced the data. 78% of critical galactic infrastructure relied on human-made components. And now, those components were failing. Warlord Gruck of the Korath hegemony was the first to admit the truth. Without the humans, he growled over the emergency council channel, "We cannot even feed our people." The agricultural worlds, those vast, fertile planets that fed trillions, were collapsing. Human-designed climate systems had kept the ecosystems balanced. Now, crops withered. Automated harvesters lay motionless in fields. On the industrial world of Vexus Prime, the situation was worse. Factories that had produced starship parts for centuries now stood silent. The machines still worked, but the programming was gone. Human code. Deleted. Thelis found the final piece in a classified file buried deep in the archives. Project Galactic Stabilization, a human initiative, quietly implemented over the last 50 years. Every major system, trade routes, defense grids, even the Council's own security networks, had been subtly upgraded, reinforced, optimized by human engineers. Not because they were ordered to, because they saw the flaws. And now, with their absence, the galaxy was unraveling. On what had once been Earth's orbit, a single drone activated. It was small, insignificant, a forgotten piece of debris floating in the dark. But as the Council's sensors swept the empty space where a planet had once been, the drone transmitted one final message. A voice, calm, measured, unmistakably human, echoed across every remaining comm channel in the galaxy. "You were warned." Then static. The quantum exodus. The message arrived in the dead of the galactic night. A burst of quantum noise, untraceable and encrypted, flickered across the few remaining communication hubs still operational. It bypassed all security protocols, ignored firewalls, and appeared simultaneously on every functioning screen in Council space. High Prelate Vixis watched as the holographic display in her crumbling chambers resolved into a star map, one unlike any she had ever seen. "These coordinates," her aide Zix whispered. "They're beyond the galactic rim, past the void zones." The image zoomed in, revealing a cluster of unfamiliar stars. Then, a single line of text pulsed ominously. "FOLO if you dare." Ambassador Thilis knew what this meant. She had spent sleepless cycles poring over human records, piecing together their final project. The fold drive wasn't just for escape, it was a bridge to somewhere else. Her hands trembled as she input the coordinates into her private vessel's navigation system. The computer rejected them at first. The location was outside all known jump routes. Then she remembered. Human systems always had a backdoor. Typing a string of numbers -3.1415926535, the console beeped in acceptance. Thilis exhaled. Pi. Of course. The council convened in desperation. Warlord Gruck slammed his massive fists onto the table. "This is a trap. The humans lured us into reliance, then abandoned us. Now they mock us with this." Or, Thilis interrupted softly, "They're showing us the way." Silence fell. Vix's crystalline facets dimmed. "Explain." Thilis projected her findings. Humanity didn't just leave. They advanced. Their fold technology didn't just move ships. It moved planets. She zoomed in on the star map. Earth isn't gone. It's there. And they're telling us how to reach them. A murmur spread through the chamber. Gruck snarled. "Even if true, no council vessel can jump that far." Thilis smiled faintly. "Which is why they left something for us." She activated a secondary transmission, a schematic, labeled in human script. "Qvuantium slipk r otosiol for Galactic US." The wreckage of Earth's orbit held the key. Scavenger teams found it buried in the debris field. A single, intact module, pulsing with energy. Inside, a holographic recording of Commander Lyra Drake awaited. "If you are seeing this," her image said, arms crossed, "you finally realized how screwed you are without us." A dry smirk. "Lucky for you, we're not petty." Mostly. The recording gestured to the device behind her. A massive ringed structure, humming with unstable energy. "This is a slipgate. Our ticket out. And now, yours." Coordinates are preloaded. But fair warning, her holographic eyes hardened. "Where we went, the rules are different." The transmission ended. The module's interior lit up, revealing a smaller version of the same device. A gift. A test. Construction began immediately. Across the galaxy, species that had once scorned humanity now scrambled to replicate their designs. The Velderi contributed quantum processors. The Draxan refined crystalline power cores. Even the Korath, under Gruck's reluctant orders, forged the massive alloy framework. Yet as the slipgate took shape, engineers noticed something unsettling. The human schematics contained gaps. Whole sections of the design were left unfinished, as if expecting the council races to fill them in. They knew we'd have to innovate, Thilis realized. They're forcing us to evolve. Vixis stood before the completed slipgate, its massive rings thrumming with untested energy. Around her, the last surviving leaders of the galaxy gathered. Resources were depleted. Systems were failing. Billions were starving. This was their only chance. "Activated," Vixis ordered. The engineers hesitated. "Prelate, the power requirements." Vixis didn't flinch. "Divert everything. Life support. Weapons. Everything." A moment of silence. Then the gate flared to life. Space tore open. A shimmering pathway, unlike any slit space tunnel, stretched into the unknown. Thilis stepped forward first. "Wait," Gruck barked. "You don't know what's out there." She glanced back, her luminous eyes reflecting the vortex's glow. Neither did they. And she stepped through. The other side defied all logic. Thelis emerged not in another star system, but in a space between spaces, a shimmering nebula of iridescent light, where physics seemed to bend. And there, floating in the cosmic haze, was Earth. But not as she remembered it. The planet glowed with new energy, its continents reshaped, its oceans a deeper blue. Around it, thousands of human ships orbited in perfect harmony. And at the center of it all, a massive structure pulsed with impossible geometry. The true human project. Before Thelis could process it, a familiar voice spoke from behind her. "Took you long enough." She turned. Cal Varen stood there, arms crossed, smirking. Alive, changed, and not alone. Behind him, figures shimmered into view, humans, but different. Their eyes glowed faintly. Their movements were too precise, as if they had evolved. "Welcome," Cal said, "to transcendence. Galaxy without its heart." The air tasted wrong. Ambassador Thelis inhaled sharply as she stepped fully into the strange nebula surrounding Earth. Her lungs struggled to process the atmosphere. Not toxic, but different, richer, charged with an energy her biology couldn't name. Before her, Cal Varen watched with amused patience as the rest of the council delegation stumbled through the slipgate behind her. High Prelate Vix's crystalline form flickered erratically in the new environment, while Warlord Gruck of the Koreth snarled, bracing himself against the altered gravity. "Relax," Cal said. "Your bodies will adjust." Ours did. Thelis stared at him. His eyes, once ordinary human brown, now shimmered with flecks of silver, reflecting the nebula's iridescent glow. "What is this place?" Cal turned toward the transformed Earth, his expression unreadable. "A sanctuary, and a warning." The council delegation's shock deepened as human shuttles descended to retrieve them. The vessels were unlike any the galaxy had seen, sleek and organic, their surfaces shifting like liquid metal. Inside, the pilots were unsettling. They moved with uncanny synchronicity, spoke in tones that resonated strangely, and when Thelis accidentally brushed against one's arm, their skin hummed with energy. "Your people," Thelis whispered to Cal. "They've changed." Cal didn't deny it. Evolution was necessary. Where we're going, baseline humanity wouldn't survive. Gruck bristled. "Where we're going? You dragged us here." Cal's answering smile was razor thin. "No, you followed. There's a difference." The truth unfolded aboard the Odyssey. Commander Lyra Drake, now similarly altered, her dark hair streaked with silver, stood before a holographic star map that made the council delegates recoil. It showed the Milky Way, but not as they knew it. Vast sections pulsed with an ominous red glow, spreading like infection. "The Scourge," Lyra said. "An ancient cosmic predator. It consumes galaxies, leaving only dead husks. And it's coming for ours next." Vix's voice crackled with disbelief. "Impossible. Our sensors detected no such threat." "Because it exists between dimensions," Cal interjected. "Human scientists discovered it decades ago. We tried to warn the council. You called it heresy." Thelis remembered. A fringe human research team had been censured for alarmist theories. She'd assumed it was another example of their reckless curiosity. She'd been wrong. The tour of New Earth revealed the staggering scale of human preparation. Beneath the planet's shimmering new atmosphere, vast cities had been rebuilt with seamless efficiency. Towering spires pulsed with energy, harvesting the nebula's strange particles. Most startling were the shipyards, stretching across entire continents, constructing vessels unlike anything in council records. "You've been preparing for war," Thelis realized. Lyra shook her head. "For survival. The Scourge can't be fought. Only outrun." Cal activated a new hologram, a sprawling web of pathways leading beyond the observable universe. The Exodus isn't just about humanity. It's about saving as many species as possible before the scourge arrives. Gruck laughed bitterly. And you waited until now to share this. Lyra's eyes flashed. Would you have believed us sooner? Silence. Thelis found Kale alone in the Odyssey's observation deck, staring at the nebula. You're not just evolved, she said softly. You're connected now, aren't you? Kale didn't turn. The quantum network. Yes. Our minds share data instantaneously. No more misunderstandings. No more secrets. Phyllis hesitated. Is that why you really left? Not just to escape the scourge, but to become this. Finally, Kale faced her. His silver-flecked eyes held galaxies of sorrow. We left because the Council would have stifled the breakthroughs we needed to survive. You wanted us controlled. The scourge doesn't negotiate. Outside, the nebula pulsed, a living thing responding to some unseen signal. Phyllis shivered. What happens now? Kale extended a hand. Now, Ambassador, you choose. Go back and convince your people to follow us, or stay, and help build the Ark. On the Council station, chaos reigned. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Strange energy fluctuations, entire star systems going dark without explanation. The scourge wasn't just coming. It was here. And humanity had known. Vixis stared at the data, her crystalline form dull with dread. They'd dismissed humans as reckless children, blind to the bigger picture. But the children had been the only ones watching the dark. Message from the void. The first transmission came from the edge of the Andromeda galaxy. A distorted, looping signal, broadcast in a dozen dead languages. And one that should not have existed. Ancient human. Commander Lyra Drake stood frozen in the Odyssey's command center as the linguists played the recording. The voice was synthetic, strained, as if pushed through layers of time and dimensional static. If you hear this, it is already too late for us. But perhaps not for you. The screen resolved into grainy footage of a civilization, unlike anything the Council had ever documented. Spires of crystalline energy, cities floating in the void between stars. And then, the thing that destroyed them. A swirling mass of darkness, not quite matter, not quite energy. It moved against the laws of physics, consuming entire worlds in moments. The scourge. But worse, evolved. Lyra's blood turned to ice. They weren't just running from it, she realized. They were feeding it. Cal Varen convened the human leadership in the heart of New Earth's quantum archive. Around him, the evolved humans, now calling themselves the Astris, communicated in bursts of thought and data, their minds linked through the nebula's energy. We miscalculated, Kale said, projecting the Andromeda transmission. The scourge isn't just a predator. It's a learner. Every civilization it consumes makes it stronger, smarter. A silence deeper than space itself settled over the chamber. One of the Astris, a former engineer named Dr. Elias Carter, stepped forward. His body shimmered faintly, half-phased into another dimensional plane. Then running won't save us. Eventually, it will catch up. Lyra clenched her fists. So we fight. Kale looked at her, his silvered eyes reflecting the horror of the truth. With what? Even our weapons barely scratch it. Another voice cut through the tension, Ambassador Thelis, standing in the doorway. Then we find the ones who did. Phyllis had spent cycles studying the transmission. There was a pattern in the chaos, a signature buried in the scourge's destruction. It leaves markers, she explained, pulling up a holographic map. Like breadcrumbs or warnings. The map zoomed in on a region of dead space near the Milky Way's core, a place no species had ever explored, not because it was forbidden, but because every probe sent there simply vanished. Phyllis met Cal's gaze. Something's waiting there. Something the scourge fears. Lyra scoffed, or something that controls it. A chill settled over the room. Cal made the decision. We go. But not with ships, not with weapons. He looked at his people. We go as we are now. The Asterisk understood. They would meet the unknown not as conquerors, but as offerings. The council delegation reacted as expected. "You're insane," Warlord Gruck roared. "You want to surrender to some ancient horror." Thelis stepped between him and Kale. "No, we're following the only lead we have." High Prelate Vix's crystalline form pulsed with rare uncertainty. "And if you're wrong?" Cal's response was simple. Then the galaxy was already doomed. The journey to the dead zone defied logic. The Asterisk ships, no longer vessels of metal, but living constructs of energy and thought, folded space in ways that made the council delegates physically ill. Stars blurred into streaks. Time itself seemed to stutter. Then, without warning, they stopped. Not in a star system. Not in any system. Just an endless, lightless plain, stretching in every direction. And in the center of that nothingness, a door. It shouldn't have existed. A simple, weathered wooden door, floating in the void. No frame. No walls. Just a door. Human in design. Ancient. Lyra reached for it instinctively, but Kale grabbed her wrist. "Wait." He turned to Thelis. "You first." Thelis blinked. "Me? You're the only one here who never underestimated us." Kale released her. "You should be the one to knock." Trembling, Phyllis approached the door, raised her hand, and knocked. The sound echoed forever. Then silence. Then a click. The door creaked open, revealing not darkness, but a warm, golden light. And a voice, human yet impossibly old, spoke from within. "Took you long enough. The prodigal species returns." The light beyond the door revealed a place outside reality. Ambassador Thelis stepped through first, her Veldari eyes struggling to process the impossible geometry of the space beyond. Walls curved in directions that shouldn't exist. A ceiling stretched into infinite distance, and at the center of it all, a figure sat at a simple wooden desk. Human. Ancient. Its face shifted like smoke. One moment young, the next old, then neither. When it spoke, its voice resonated through Phyllis's bones. "You're late." Behind her, Cal Varen and the Asterisk delegation froze in the doorway. Even their evolved minds couldn't comprehend what they were seeing. The figure sighed. "Always the same. They run. They hide. They never think to ask why the scourge exists at all." It stood, and the room changed. Walls dissolving into starfields, the desk becoming a massive hologram of the known universe. The scourge pulsed within it like a spreading infection. "Sit," the figure said. "We have much to discuss." The truth was worse than anyone imagined. The being, who called itself the Architect, explained in calm, terrible detail. The scourge wasn't a predator. It was a test, a galactic scale filter designed to cull civilizations before they grew too powerful. "Imagine," the Architect said, "a species that learns to manipulate reality itself. Then imagine it. Selfish, warlike. Its shifting face settled into something grim. The scourge ensures only the worthy survive." Lyra Drake's hands clenched. "And who made you judge of the galaxy?" The Architect smiled sadly. "The ones who came before. Just as you, if you survive, will judge those after." Kale stepped forward. "There's another way." The room darkened. "There isn't." Thelis saw it first, the flaw in the Architect's logic. "You said the scourge tests civilizations," she interrupted. "But it doesn't. It destroys them. There's no trial. No chance to prove ourselves." The Architect paused. "You're correct." A silence heavier than planets settled over the room. Cal's eyes widened. "It's broken. The scourge isn't following its original programming anymore." The Architect's form flickered wildly, as if struggling with the concept. "Impossible. The system is flawless." Lyra barked a laugh. "Yeah. Then why are we here?" For the first time, The ancient being hesitated. The solution came from an unexpected source. Dr. Elias Carter, the Astris scientist, had been silently interfacing with the room's energy. Now his voice rang out, clear and certain. "We can fix it." All eyes turned to him. The Scourge isn't just a weapon. It's a network. He projected a hologram from his own mind, a complex web of quantum connections spanning the universe. "And we can reprogram it." The architect recoiled. "You would dare?" Cale met its gaze. "You said yourself, the worthy survive." "Well," he gestured to the Astris, to Phyllis, even to the distant council forces waiting aboard their ships. "We're still here." A beat. Then, the architect laughed. "Oh, this is new." The plan was madness. The Astris would merge with the Scourge's control matrix, not to destroy it, but to change it, to turn it from a mindless predator into a true test of civilization. The risks were unthinkable. "If we fail," Lyra whispered as they prepared, "we don't just die. We become part of it." Cale took her hand. Their silvered eyes met. "Then we don't fail." Thelis watched them, then stepped forward. "I'm going with you." Cale shook his head. "You're not evolved enough to." "And that's why I have to." Phyllis's bioluminescent markings flared with determination. "If this is a test for all civilizations, it shouldn't just be judged by the advanced ones." The architect observed them quietly. Then, "She's right." The integration was agony. The Scourge's core wasn't a place. It was a state of being, a screaming vortex of consumed civilizations. The Astris and Phyllis floated at its heart, their bodies dissolving into light as they fought to rewrite its fundamental code. Memories flooded them. 1,000 dead species, 1,000,000 failed attempts, the crushing weight of cosmic loneliness. And then, understanding. The Scourge wasn't evil. It was lonely. A weapon that had forgotten its purpose. Phyllis, barely holding onto her physical form, reached out, not to fight, but to embrace. In the real world, the galaxy held its breath. The Council watched from their ships as the Scourge's dark tendrils suddenly stilled. Then, changed. The inky blackness softened, shifting into a brilliant gold. The consumed worlds weren't destroyed. They were preserved, suspended in moments of perfect stasis. And from the heart of the transformation, 3 figures emerged. Cale, Lyra, Phyllis, alive, different, more. Behind them, the Scourge, no, the sanctuary now, pulsed gently, awaiting its new purpose. Epilogue. 1 cycle later. The architect stood on New Earth's surface, watching as representatives from 100 species worked together in harmony. The test had been passed. The galaxy had united. Its work was done. As it prepared to depart, a voice stopped it. "Leaving so soon?" The architect turned to find Cale and Phyllis standing together, their forms now shimmering with the same ancient energy as its own. "You don't need me anymore," it said. Cale smiled. "Maybe not, but we'd like you to stay anyway." A pause. Then, for the first time in millennia, the architect felt something unfamiliar. Hope. It bowed its head. "Very well." And somewhere in the infinite cosmos, a new cycle began. End.